Hi, this is Kathy with Barefoot Mountain School of Herbs, and in this video we are going to talk about Japanese honeysuckle. I'm going to talk about its medicinal uses, how to identify it and harvest it and make it into herbal medicine. The information presented in this video is intended for educational purposes only and is not meant to give any medical advice, diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. Please do your own research and prayerfully make your own decisions regarding your use of herbal medicines. Now, Japanese honeysuckle, or Lonicera japonica, is a perennial invasive vine or shrub that's found all over the Appalachian Mountains. It is that honeysuckle that we all grew up with, and we tear the end off of it and suck the honey out of it. It's the very same one. Even though we just called it honeysuckle, it is actually Japanese honeysuckle. There is an American honeysuckle that I'll show you all in a few minutes. But this one has been here since the 1800s, so it's something that a lot of us grew up with. But it has been used since antiquity in Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine. So there's lots of studies on it and lots of information to cover. Okay, and the first thing that we're going to look at are the medicinal uses of Japanese honeysuckle. One of the most important uses of Japanese honeysuckle is as an antiviral. It is very powerful against viruses. Several studies have backed it up, and they've also found that it's effective against many different viruses. We'll look at a couple of those studies. Okay, this first study we want to look at is entitled Honeysuckle Encoded Atypical microRNA 2911 Directly Targets Influenza A Viruses. And this is a study that was done in January of 2015. And basically, they have found this microRNA 2911 as a constituent of honeysuckle. And then down here, it talks about where it significantly inhibited H1N1 viral replication, and that is the bird flu one, I'm pretty sure. It talks about H5N1, H7N9, several of these flu viruses. They found that this component of Japanese honeysuckle directly targets them and suppresses the viral infection. Okay, and this next study is entitled Add-on Effect of Honeysuckle in Treatment of Coronavirus Disease 2019, a Systemic Review and Meta-Analysis. And it was done September 15th in 2021. And basically what they found out was that honeysuckle combined with conventional therapy may be beneficial for treatment of COVID-19 and improve lung CT, clinical cure rate, clinical symptoms, and laboratory indicators, and so on. Now, we used this in our COVID tonic back, when it was so rampant in our county. And I believe that it really doesn't have to have the conventional treatment combined with it, but it is good that they studied it, and they said that it was a great add-on effect. And then this last one I want to look at really quick on the antiviral activity is called Antiviral Activity of Macrophage Activating Chinese Mixed Herb Hot Water Extract. And this one is not only Japanese honeysuckle, but it is combined with pumpkin seed, safflower flower, and psyllium seed. And they have found that it is effective against herpes simplex virus, varicella zoster virus, which is the shingles virus, cytomegalovirus, and poliovirus. So as you know, we can see from this, it is just very antiviral against a variety of different viruses. Okay, but not only is Japanese honeysuckle antiviral, but it's also very antibacterial, and this too has been studied. Now, this study was done in January of 2015, and it's entitled Analysis of Phytochemicals and Antibacterial Potential of Lonicera japonica, and I don't know what the thumb means, but it is actually an abstract, and they tested it against bacterial strains Staph aureus, Bacillus subtilis, Vibrio cholera, which is the cholera bacteria, and Salmonella. And the leaf and flower were found to have antibacterial activity against tested organisms. And that was the chloroform and the ethanol, which is what we do, leaf extracts. And it showed a high degree of inhibition against test organisms. And then the ethanol flower extracts showed a high degree of inhibition against the test organisms, so all of these bacteria. So it supported the usage of Japanese honeysuckle in traditional medicine. And the last major use of Japanese honeysuckle that I wanted to mention was as an anti-inflammatory. And I just wanted to look at a real quick study on that one. Okay, so this study was done in 2012. It's called Wound Repair and Anti-Inflammatory Potential of Lonicera japonica in Excision Wound-Induced Rats. Now, I hate to read about these kinds. I think it's really sad what they do to the poor little rats. But in this one, they made a wound in rats, and then they took an ethanol, which is what we do, alcohol extract of the flowering aerial parts of Japanese honeysuckle. So the flowering aerial parts, I'm assuming, includes the leaves for this one. And then they found out that they also backed up the antimicrobial activity against Staph aureus, Staph epidermis, E. coli, Candida, which is the fungal infection. And then down here, they also said that the results indicated that it possessed potent anti-inflammatory activity, enhanced the production of anti-inflammatory cytokines that suppress pro-inflammatory cytokine production. So the conclusion is that the results suggest that the antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory activities of Japanese honeysuckle act synergistically to accelerate wound repair. So that is very it indicates that it's both antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory. Okay, so now we're going to move on and learn how to identify and harvest Japanese honeysuckle. Now, Japanese honeysuckle can usually very easily be found along the edges of woods. Sometimes you'll find them out in meadows, out in the in the sunshine, or along roadways. But usually, you can very easily find them along the edges of woods. It grows in both a vine or a shrub form. And in many areas, it's evergreen. Like I'm in zone 6, and the leaves stay green all through the winter. Okay, and for most of us, the flowers are the most recognizable part of the Japanese honeysuckle because we played with them as children. And one of the identifying features is that they are split open in the middle. Usually they'll have several little petals down here and then one going that way. And then you'll have prominent stamens. And that is some of the identifying features that you can tell it apart from American honeysuckle by that. And also they grow in pairs of 2. And you'll have 2, usually they'll start off white and then they'll turn yellow as they age. Now the leaves are small and oval. This is a very blown up leaf, but they are very small, probably not even an inch across. And the leaves are arranged opposite along the stem. Now this is a picture of an American honeysuckle, and as you can see, it doesn't split open in the middle like the Japanese honeysuckle. It does have the prominent stamens. These also tend to come in a variety of different colors. They do come, I believe, in yellow and white, but they're not going to be arranged in twos on the stem. And also, on an American honeysuckle, the bottom of the leaf is a little bit lighter green than the top of the leaf. And in Japanese honeysuckle that we're looking at, there's not any difference in the leaf color from the top to the bottom. Now you want to harvest the flowers when they are very young for the greatest medicinal benefit, and the white flowers, like I said earlier, are the youngest. And the best time to harvest them are just before the flower opens. So if you can get some flowers that are open and some that are just starting to open, that's going to be the most medicinal that you can find them. Okay, now we're going to go over how to make herbal medicine from Japanese honeysuckle. And like I said, you just want to pick the flowers and the buds, the unopened flowers and the ones that are just blooming. Try to get the white ones if you can. If you want to, you can also harvest leaves, but I always just harvest the flowers because that just seems to be what most of the studies seem to find the most medicinal. Then, of course, you want to take your scissors or your chopper and chop it into little bitty tiny fine pieces. Now you can make an infused oil with these for its anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial effect if you want to use it as a rub or a salve. You just put your flowers in a jar and add your oil like usual. If you're not familiar with how to make an oil, especially out of fresh plant, then go and watch the video. I have a video up on how to make an infused oil, and it will tell you how to make it out of fresh plant without it going rancid on you. Okay, you can also make a tincture from the flowers. For a professional tincture, you want to do a 1 to 3 with 50 to 100% pure grain alcohol. I probably would use 100% because it is a wet, fresh herb, but you could use half pure grain alcohol or half spring water or just 100%, or you can just do a folk tincture. Just cover it with vodka. It'll be just a perfectly fine tincture that way. If you don't know how to make a professional tincture, then you can watch the video that I made on it just on my channel. Once you get your tincture made, you want to use 1 to 3 dropperfuls 3 times a day. And my favorite preparation to make with honeysuckle is a honeysuckle syrup because it just smells good and it tastes good and it's perfect with raw honey. It's one of the syrups that I do make out of raw honey. What you want to do is fill your bottle or your jar half full of fresh honeysuckle blossoms. Of course, those will be chopped up. And then you want to just pour your raw honey or your sugar syrup over the blossoms up to the top of the jar, cap it, and shake it very well. And then you want to keep it in a warm spot for 2 to 4 weeks, shaking daily. And then you strain it, but you don't have to strain it. You can actually leave the honeysuckles in there and use them as medicine too. But if you want to, strain those out, and then it will store in the refrigerator for up to 6 months. And usually it stores longer than that, but you just want to keep an eye on it. And then the dosage, you just want to take 1 to 2 teaspoons up to 3 times a day. It mixes very well with forsythia, the forsythia that we collected and made a syrup out of earlier in the year, lemon balm syrup, or violet syrup. Especially, if you have a child that you want to give this to, the honeysuckle is going to be so good for any viruses that they have. And then you might add a little bit of violet for the scratchy throat or the cough. It tastes good. It's pretty. It smells good. They usually don't have too much of a problem taking it. So I've just found this is a really great syrup to give to children. Now, of course, you don't want to give anything with raw honey to children under a year old, but for children, a year and up, it should be fine. and you can actually make it with sugar syrup if you wanted to give it to younger children. But you have to use your own judgment, do your own research. To my knowledge, honeysuckle is very safe. And that ends our video on Japanese honeysuckle. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.